Hi, Bill.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good.
So we don't have Mark yet. We'll wait a few more minutes for Mark, see if he comes on.
Okay. Is Marla here?
And Marla's here.
I am.
Hi, Marla.
Hi, Stu.
Mark, you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We
Good.
can see you too.
Yay.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the March 4th, 2024 meeting of the Woodstock Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency. We'll start with a roll call.
Marla Butts.
Stuart Peasley.
Mark Parker.
And William Irwinski. We have a quorum and we don't have any alternates to appoint. So we'll move on to action of the minutes of the previous meeting, the regular meeting of February 5th, 2024.
I just had one typo that I noticed. The next meeting date, I think it was referenced as 29/24.
Yep, that's one of them. At the top of that page, also, in the second line down, says shall be inserted discussion. FS, the correct term is IWWA commissioners or agents. And I don't know what we should have said for the FS there after discussion. Either that or we have two ises and we don't need one.
I think that
Looks
means,
to me like is.
yeah. Is term. Oh, if the correct term is IWWA commissioners or agents, period.
Okay. Do you think it should be if?
Yeah. With a question mark
Yes.
or comma, either one. Could be a comma. If the correct term for IWWA commissioners or agents, comma, Ms. Butts believes members of the agency is the correct terminology. So I think if you put the period to a comma, I think it still makes some sense.
Okay, but the word is if, you think?
Yes. I think it was a question, like which is the correct term?
Any other changes or edits?
I don't see any.
Right. Would somebody make a motion to approve these minutes?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Stuart Peasley.
Okay, Marla Butts made a motion to accept the minutes as amended, and Stuart Peasley seconded the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Okay, moving on, pending applications. 02240223, Crooked Trail Extension, William Breslaw, 12 by 22 shed within upland review area.
So the commission had requested more information from Mr. Breslaw, and he's provided that. Members have had a chance to look through this. He's given a narrative and an improved site plan. And there was clarification on where this would be going. The locus map, this is Witch's Woods. And this is a markup of a previous proposal that wasn't implemented. But on this, the north arrow is depicted. So we are looking at it. Let me work this. I don't know if I'm helping matters with this rotation. But let's see, north faces to everybody's
Your
left.
left.
And he had cited a shed here in the past, but it has been since removed. It has been taken out by the same company who's going to be putting one in. No trees were removed. There is an existing stone base. But I would invite Mr. Breslow to speak to his application if he wishes.
What kind of stone base, do you know, Dan?
Can you hear me, Bill Breslow?
Yes,
Yes,
There was a gravel base under the prior shed. The new shed will go on that base. It might have to be expanded slightly.
Yeah, I
It's a
took a look
level-
at the,
It's a level area, and there's been a shed there for years.
while about speaking, I took a look at the letter that Bill sent, and I think it adequately addressed all the concerns that we had at the last meeting. I have no objection to approving this application. Actually, I don't really think that there's a need for much erosion sediment control because there is a grass lawn between where the shed is and Witches Woods Lake. Um,
I
and
have
is,
a question. I just had a recent interaction with a similar project, and I came across the code that anything over 196 square feet needs a foundation.
oh, that's news to me.
Yeah. So I gotta verify it, but I think we've got to table this another month.
Is that
Until
is
we
that a
know-
building code?
So if that's the case, then we gotta put in piers or foundation, which means there'll be soil removal.
Well, that's interesting because I don't think a building permit is required for any shed less than 200 square feet. I know that's the building code. So if they don't need a building permit, then it doesn't, wouldn't think it would fall under the building code.
Well, the codes change every 3 years, and the latest code might be 196 feet and not 200 feet. So I gotta check.
I approached, if I may, I approached the building department several times because this has been pending for
Mhm.
months. And
Okay.
they did not, in the building department, they indicated I have to pay a fee. I've already made out the application, and they did not indicate any necessity for any foundation under a movable shed.
Well,
It's not-
if,
It's not the fact that it's movable, it's just that it's a certain size. The code stipulates the area has to be supported properly. But
So
I'm
if
just saying,
that's the-
we might need to check.
if that's the case, then he would, if we approved it tonight and he needed to do a modification, he could come back and get a modification, because this would be a wetlands agent approval. Technically. And he could come and get a modification for that. And at that time, he'd have to identify what the extent of any excavation work he'd have to do if he needed to put in a foundation. But I haven't heard of this before, Stuart. And at least not
Stu.
in the last 6 months.
This is Dan. We operate with the 200 square foot, not requiring a building permit, but there is one code of anchoring that is applicable. I don't know if that's in line with what you're thinking. But it's
Right
not,
now, it's really just so recent. I have not had a chance to double check in the code, but it came up in a conversation on a similar type of project. And it just occurred to me to bring it up. Because I think that, you know, the size pushes the limit and extent of what we're concerned with, and
Wouldn't the building department be the determining factor there? If you were to approve it, subject to the building department?
Mhm.
In other words, I've been
So,
waiting several months for
typically-
this.
Typically, right now, since Stu's not sure of the requirements, the commission could approve this on the condition that if modifications are subsequently required, that you would have to come back for modification of your approval. But I don't see why we would hold it up for that at this point in time, because Stu, you're not sure.
no,
And
I can't.
And I can't see holding them up
verify.
another month, just
Yeah,
you know, and if he
With-
does find he needs it, that he can always come back and have that modified depending on what kind of additional
without
work
being
he
able
needs to
to
do.
cite the actual code article, no, or section and article, I can't. But I'm just saying it came up in hearsay, and
Mhm.
you know, we shouldn't. I don't want to ignore it. That's all.
So,
This is Bill Verwinski. From my experience of about 30 years ago, if you are putting the shed on piers, then you need a building permit for that, and the piers have to be inspected. I don't know if that plays in somewhere with this new regulation. And the other thing is the 12 by 22 was 264 square feet.
That's correct.
so then the building office would have told him if he needed to have a foundation, if he's applied for a building permit. They wouldn't have
Well-
is your building permit still pending?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did the building official say anything about requiring any modifications?
No, ma'am.
How long has he had the building permit application?
I think almost 2 months.
Okay, all right. I'm of the opinion that we shouldn't hold this up. The building official's gonna have to, if he's gonna come up with something, he should have come up with it by now, I would have thought. And maybe he's holding off waiting for our decision. So I'm gonna move to approve application 02-24-02 23 Crooked Trail Extension for William Breslow for a 12 by 22 shed in the upland review area on the condition that should subsequent modifications be required that involve additional earth moving work, that he come back for a modification of his approval.
Thank you.
Second,
Is there any other discussion on this motion? Yeah, we have a motion from Marla Butts to approve this application 022402 23 Crooked Trail Extension, William Breslow, 12 by 22 shed within an upland review area, pending any additional building permit and building code requirements that we're not fully aware of at the moment,
there's modifications,
the modifications.
right?
Is there any other discussion? I will note that this drawing and the previous one, it appears that you're planning to keep it within the setbacks, the zoning setbacks, also the 10-foot side yard and 20-foot rear yard, or whatever else the RY might entail. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
All those opposed say nay.
I'm going to abstain.
Abstentions?
One abstention until we get more information.
Okay.
oh, and could we get a modified diagram showing that the new proposed location will overlap or overshed, overshed, well, excuse the pun, over the area that currently says where the old shed was, right? That's where it's gonna really be going, right?
Shows on the drawing where it's going. It's right up in the corner.
But the old shed location is different.
Right.
No,
The
No,
old
it's the
shed-
same location.
Same location as the old shed. It's going right on the same gravel base.
Up in
Where
and that's up in the right-hand corner?
Yes. He
Well,
explained
I-
that, he explained in his letter that there had been a shed at a different location, that he'd moved down to that location some years ago, and that's the one he's replacing. So the shed historically had a different location and had been moved some years ago to this location that's
Okay,
proposed for the new 12 by
so
22.
then explain to me, I'm looking at this Witches Woods diagram, and I see a rectangular area labeled shed to the right of the
Mhm.
house. Is that no longer there, or is that still there?
That's still there. That's a
Oh,
small shed. It's the one on the upper right-hand corner, the most southerly point that's marked proposed, at least what I'm looking at on the computer, which
Yeah,
Dan put
okay.
up. That's the one where there was a 10 by 16 shed, barnyard moved it off. They're holding a shed for me to deliver. And I applied at the building department 2 months ago. They didn't indicate there was any problem, but told me I had to come to you folks. So that's what I did.
Okay. So you'll ultimately have 2 sheds there on the property.
Yes,
Okay, got it. Okay.
Point of order, Bill. You've
Yes,
called the vote. You have so far 2 votes yay, 1 abstention, and you haven't voted.
I will vote yay. So the motion carries. So you'll have to get with the building inspector and the building official and figure out if there are any other restrictions that you need, and then come back to us if you're gonna have to do some digging for a foundation.
agreed. And I assume if there's no digging required, I don't have to come back.
That would be true.
Thank you. Appreciate the vote. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, moving on, new applications. 02-24-05, 19 Northgate Road, Bill Chaput, 10 by 12 shed with an upland review area. I don't know how you say it the correct way for the last name. Is there anybody representing the applicant?
Bill Chaput.
Chaput? Okay. If you can scroll down, Dan, to the next page, please. Okay. Dan, you can answer the questions here. Would there be setbacks that are not present that would need to be factored in also? Does that would mean that shed would have to move from where he's representing it? Dan, can you answer that question?
I wasn't ready to wear a zoning hat tonight, I'm sorry. Yeah, it does indicate 3 feet. Not immediately familiar with the rear yard setback requirement.
Okay, it would also depend whether you're calling that a rear or a side yard.
That would be a rear.
That would be rear.
Okay, if you're talking about Northgate Road and not the gravel driveway, right?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's a subdivision or regular. So.
There is a house on the other side of the line, that's why, but I don't know who occupies it and,
The other side of
Well-
which line?
to the right, that 94-foot line.
So to the east.
I'm pulling up the lot dimensional requirements. I'll have an answer for you in a moment.
Is that in the subdivision, Dan?
I don't believe it is part of a subdivision or the applicable regs. So structures between 33 square feet and 120 square feet must meet front setback and 3-foot side and rear setback. So the proposed shed is 120 square feet. My read is that it must meet 3 feet side and rear.
Okay,
So
so
it
that
meets the
answers,
requirements.
yep, that answers that question.
I didn't see any
Sorry
problem with
about that,
this
guys.
request. There's plenty of lawn between, when you look at the aerial, between the brook and where the construction would be occurring. The construction is occurring on the southwesterly corner. And the brook is located in the eastern portion of the property. And they seem to imply that it's at the edge of actually it's near the edge of the west eastern border. So I don't see a problem with this. Except for, what does he say? He said it'll be set on the existing parking area. No site work is needed to do this, and there is no foundation. And the Woodstock Agricultural Society surrounds this property. So I don't, since he's not going to be doing any excavation work, it's going to be going on an existing parking area. And if you look at the aerial, you can actually see there's already vehicles,
Yeah,
some kind of vehicles parked in that area.
Yeah, I don't know if they're still there. He does have a dumpster somewhere along in that area, but I don't
Yeah.
know that the other vehicles are there at the moment.
Yeah. But he's not proposing any grading work. So that would be the concern that I would have, is if he was going to be doing grading. But he indicates he's not doing any grading. So if there's no real land disturbance, I don't see any problem with putting the shed there. So I would move to approve application 02-24-05, 19 Northgate Road, Bill Chaput, for a 10 by 12 foot shed within the upland review area, with the understanding that there is no earth moving work for the installation of this pre-built shed.
seconded.
Okay, we have a motion from Marla Butts to approve application 022405, 19 Northgate Road, Bill Shepwood, 12 by 20 shed within an upland review area, seconded by Stuart Peasley. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? The motion carries. Okay, moving on to 02-24-06, 186 Bungay Hill Road, Mike Camilleri, deck expansion within upland review area.
My opinion is this is a use permitted as of right, maintenance and enjoyment of a residential home, and doesn't require a permit based upon the information that was provided.
He's just replacing an existing deck,
Mhm.
but he says he says in the application that he's installing a new deck.
Right, so his earth moving work is installation of sonotubes.
Yeah,
And if he can't use that, he'll use helical piles, which I'm not familiar with those, but
they're less disruptive, but anyway,
Oh.
it's just, for me, I would just say, when an application is filed like that, it's just call it a replacement instead of a new deck. If it's the same footprint, then we don't have to be concerned about any new excavation, really.
but I do think it falls under the classification of a use permitted as of right for maintenance and
Yeah.
enjoyment of a residential home.
Agreed.
Dan, do you know if he paid a fee for this? $95?
Yes.
Yeah, so when things come in like this, you should probably have them, bring them before the commission for a jurisdictional ruling, and I know our application form does not have jurisdictional rulings involved in it, and that's something we need to address. Because there's supposed to be a form for jurisdictional rulings, and right now we're using the application form, and they end up paying a fee, a fee that they wouldn't have had to have done. So since it came in as an individual, as a wetlands agent approval, I would think that we should approve it as a wetlands agent approval, and you'll publish a legal notice for that. And if you do that, then we need the money for that. We have to give the $60 to the state. If it was just a jurisdictional ruling, we wouldn't be collecting the $60. And we also wouldn't have to publish a legal notice, but since he's already paid it and I don't know how they could get reimbursed, I would move that we approve application 02-24-06, 186 Bungie Hill Road, Mike Camilleri, for a deck expansion in the upland review area without
second.
conditions.
Seconded by Stuart Peasley.
Okay, we have the motion 02-24-06 by Marla Butts for 186 Bungay Hill Road, Mike Camilleri, deck expansion within upland review area, and seconded by Stuart Peasley. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to 02-24-07, 429 Child Road, Robert Page, garage within upland review area.
So Bill, I looked at this application and there's a substantial distance of a vegetative barrier between the proposed construction site and what they identified as stream or wetlands on the property. And he does show a row of silt fence on that side of in the drawing, the handwritten drawing that's on page, what, 3? Page 2 of the application.
Yes.
And so he shows a silt fence. I just have one question for him. Does that silt fence demark the limit of land disturbance? I believe he's on.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be in the back aspect of that proposed area before we're gonna dig from the foundation.
Yep.
Yep.
So as long as the silt fence is adequate to protect against sediment from reaching the stream, I don't see any problem with this. I looked at the aerial photography. There's a good grass strip between the stream and wetlands edge or watercourse edge and where the silt fence is.
There is also this right here, the Northeast District Department of Health approval also.
Mm-hmm. That's the B100 approval.
He did submit a B100A revision. Rob, was that, did you make the design smaller?
Yeah, the design a little bit smaller. Yeah, we went with 36 by 36. We went to 36 by 24 instead, and I got the revision approval from the Brooklyn Department of Health.
But right now it's all pretty much manicured lawn. And
Yeah.
you have a structure there. Is that a structure?
Yeah, when I bought the house, I think it was some kind of like platform that he had built. I think he was going to try to erect like a greenhouse on it for his wife, and then they went through a divorce, lost, and then the house went on the market, and so it's we picked it up. But I'm in the process of tearing it down right now,
Mm-hmm,
so I can make room for when we get moving with foundation.
mm-hmm.
Okay, Bill Rowinski, it looks like in one of the photos there that the barn is like right over the existing structure that was there.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah,
my,
that's it's on skids right there. So I'm just taking it apart right now and getting it back to the ground.
it looks like they had some concrete piers there also.
No, they're concrete blocks,
Okay,
just some cinder blocks they had set down the ground
Yeah.
just to bring up that back grade a little bit so it's more even.
okay, Bill Rowinski again, my question to you is you were talked about bringing power to the barn. Do you have and your septic tank is right in the line of sight to the house? Do you have a particular road you're planning to go through?
That's yeah, I would probably have to dig a trench coming from the back of the house to to give ample room to kind of go across the yard to reach the shed.
It would
Yeah, because
be,
I can't go across the front because that's where the pipe goes from the septic tank to the leach field.
yeah,
They have it going across my driveway. Um, yeah, so I think I'd have to kind of go out the front and then go around that area, then to kind of loop around to the shed.
Will they let you do overhead wires?
Good question. I don't think I would for the aesthetics, but I'd probably take the effort to try to dig a trench over there. It's a good question though.
Mhm. Well, how does your electricity come into the house?
Underground, and well, I had it all marked up or whatever the dig safe people came out and they said
Yep.
that area is all in the clear. I got the approval from that. And but it comes up from the road. If you follow the driveway up to the entrance onto Trial Road, it's probably about I'd say like 40 feet to the left of the entrance to the driveway, and then it comes down along the driveway, and then it crosses the driveway, and then goes in at the if you see that possible area for stockpile materials is right across that corner to the house. That's where the electrical comes into the house.
Also crosses the leach field connection.
It must evidently.
It has to.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
I do not know, but I know that it was marked. The guy came and did his little measure with his machine and
Mhm.
said that
Cool.
somehow it's must crisscross.
Yeah, it would have to. It's call
Have to.
before you dig. Yeah.
Oh, it got you. Yeah. That area that was already the proposed area that I wanted to know if there's any wires or anything in that area, and there was not. So
Hmm.
and come to think of it, I would probably change my possible area for stockpile materials, and I would probably have it just directly to the side of the proposed structure right there on the grass right there. And then maybe extend the silt line out there just to make sure nothing washes away into the stream. Just because I don't want heavy equipment like a heavy dump truck driving over my septic pipe as much as possible.
So you want it to the northeast of the construction site?
Yeah. Yeah, right about there where your mouse is at. That it's just grass right there.
Yep. Well, then you'll have to provide erosion control for the stockpile.
Mhm.
If you're gonna leave it there for any,
But yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I just extend the silt line fence over to enclose that area.
I don't have any problem if approving this application or letting the wetlands agent approve this application if you submit a revised drawing showing a proper location for the stockpile and erosion and sediment controls for that. And if you are going to do underground lines, provide a modification of that, where the location of that underground line is going to go so that you have adequate erosion and sediment control. But you've got pretty solid lawn between your construction site, which should, and it's pretty flat. So I don't see that you'd have a whole lot of problem with sediment movement. It's just the stockpile when depending on how tall it is and how long it stays.
Sure.
How does the rest of the commission feel about that?
Bill
Having the
Rowinski,
wetlands agent do an approval based upon a revised plan showing the changes.
that would be okay. I do have one question for Marla and Dan, the notification to the Wyndham Waterworks page. If Dan, you can scroll back to that. Now, there's nothing checked off of application submitted to or type of application. Is there any further information that needs to be submitted for this or with this to Wyndham Waterworks?
I mailed it back to them that same day when I met with Dan on Tuesday last week.
So you mailed it just as it's shown,
Yeah, with the
just with Woodstock
yeah, with
checked off?
I
and
just
that's it?
submitted all my paperwork to them so they could have everything too. So I just made a copy for them.
Okay,
I could reach out to Wyndham Waterworks to make sure they know which submission, which agency this was submitted to and for.
While we're on that, Dan, in your time in the office, you might want to check to see if the Wyndham Waterworks ever filed a watershed map as required by the statute. Because if they never filed the watershed map, technically this is not required. And it's supposed to be on the land records, in the Woodstock land records. I know that there's been no notifications like Connecticut Water and Thompson. They never filed one, so there's no requirement
Okay.
to notify them. That's the way the statute reads. You'd have to do research in the land records to see if they filed, or contact Wyndham Waterworks to find out what the volume and page number is of the map that they filed on the land records for this public act.
So we're asking for a new drawing, a new map.
Yeah, but it's a wetlands agent approval, so it could be issued by the agent, by Dan, if he got a revised map. I have no objection to him issuing an approval should he get the revised map showing the correct location of the stockpile, the additional erosion sediment controls, and the any excavation that might be required for underground utility to the barn. I'll move that application 02-24-07 429 Child Road, Robert Page, garage within the upland review area be processed as a wetlands agent approval, provided the applicant submit revised drawings showing the correct location of the stockpile with additional erosion and sediment controls and any underground utilities that require earth moving work.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as a wetlands agent approval, application 02-2407, 429 Child Road, Robert Page, in garage with an upland review area with conditions and modifications to drawings. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Anybody opposed? No abstentions, and the motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Moving on to number 7, administrative business. Bylaw review.
So these changes, the changes that were made from last meeting were incorporated into the bylaws. And so they're ready for adoption at this point in time.
Okay, this is Bill Rowinski. I have some questions.
Mhm.
In number 3, location and records. Says minutes and other official documents will be filed and recorded in the office of the town clerk as required by the Freedom of Information Act. What happens with the other data that in maps and things like that?
Hey,
Is that-
Dan, yeah, well, I'm reading this here and I thought we changed building office to land use office.
I've got land use
Oh.
office on my screen.
Oh, then the copy that I printed off the web that you sent out. Oh, I printed off the wrong year. Never mind. I'll look at the screen.
Yep, it is land
Um,
use.
What was your question again? Bill?
Where is the other data besides, as far as like maps and drawings and things like that? Is that all go to the town clerk or some of that?
No, no, only the minutes and a copy of the bylaws, a copy of the regulations. Those are required, and the map and any wetlands map are required to be filed with the town clerk as required under the Freedom of Information Act. All applications, general correspondence, other stuff would be in the land use office.
Okay,
So when it says official documents, do you think you want that better detailed out?
I was just questioning what that really entails and the bigger picture of what goes where. I mean, I assume that some things were kept in the land use office, but
Mhm.
I'm questioning whether I'm missing something or not.
Well, the land use office, I would expect would keep copies of its regulations and the bylaws for the commission and the map, but they're required to be filed under FOIA with the town clerk. So certain things are required to be filed, and that would be limited to the minutes, the regulations, the bylaws, the agendas, and the map. I can't think of anything else that's required to be filed. Records disposal authorizations, I think, have to also be filed with the town clerk. And that's the only other thing I can think of. But all those documents should also be maintained in the office of the agency.
Okay, I guess I can live with that, the way
Yeah.
it is. Membership number 4B. Terms and vacancies are prescribed in the Town of Woodstock Special Acts and Ordinances, page 19, section 2. I was curious whether there might be beneficial to have a date that goes with that, or if
Mm,
there is even is a date that goes with that.
I don't know. I don't have the ordinances. I have to look it up. That's something we could put on for next year because we do this every year.
Yeah.
Crap, what did I just do? Yeah, because the page numbers can change. Let's see. Woodstock.
A date adopted or something like that.
Yeah, or as amended. Or it actually should cite the specific ordinance. If it's page 19, section 2, that's a specific ordinance. Let's see. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. But if we change it now, we can't adopt these until next month. Because you have to review them a month ahead, then it has to
Yep.
be produced before you can vote on them, so. let's see.
Okay, well, I'm just bringing up a few things that when I went through it tonight, that I'm wondering if we should clarify in the future.
Probably should. Probably should. Um,
Okay, if you want to move on to a few other things.
yeah, I'm looking up the special act, so.
Okay, under number 6A, number 1, it says comprehensive training program developed pursuant to section 22A 39(1) of the Connecticut General Statutes. Do we know that that's the current, training program follows under that also?
Hold on. I'll
Can
see
you
if I
say
got
that
it.
again? Is that number 6A, you said?
6A, number 1, making
Okay.
determinations. Down at the bottom of that paragraph, it says, has given proof of completing a comprehensive training program developed pursuant to section 22A 39(1) of the Connecticut General Statutes. We're operating under a new training program now, and I don't know if that qualifies under there or is that's the perfect current classification for the current training program, or whether that needs to be investigated at all. So moving on to number 8, meetings. I believe we were doing Zoom based on a statute during COVID. Does anybody have an idea when that statute might end? And what are
Nope,
responsibilities?
nope. I don't have an answer for that. Maybe the town clerk can provide an answer for that. With respect to the membership, the town of Woodstock special acts and ordinances, it is in the ordinance concerning inland wetlands and water courses, amended to December 31st, 2022. Section 2 is what changes the number of members from I think it was 7 down to 5 members and 2 alternates instead of 7 members and 2 alternates. Terms and vacancies are described in section 2. So it's the wrong page number. It's page 20, not 19. So we'll put that on for next year to change that. Start a markup, or we could do it at any time. We can do it. We can adopt these now and then change it again, or we could just let it ride another month and make those changes when we get the answers to those questions that you had. Would you prefer to do that?
No, I'd rather just go with this and create another edit list.
Okay.
The other thing is on number 8, a letter H. Unless otherwise specified in the Connecticut General Statutes or these bylaws, the newly revised Robert's Rules of Order, that title is kind of backwards. It's Robert's Rules of Order newly revised.
Oh,
And the version that I have is copyrighted 2020. And it's also a 50th anniversary edition of the newly revised Robert's Rules of Order. So
Where,
that's
where did you get that, Bill?
right in the title pages of my Robert's Rules of Order. It says Robert's Rules of Order. It's almost like a subtitle, newly revised.
Oh, so it's like available as a book.
Yes, it is. It's a
Oh,
book.
okay.
This edition, published on the 50th anniversary of the first in the Robert's Rules of Order newly revised series. And this is the 12th edition that I had, so we should at least reverse that wording. Robert's Rules of Orders newly revised. And the newly revised goes back 50 years, 50 plus years. And that's all I have for now as far as potential changes. Does anybody else have anything? Any other comments on that? Or on these updated bylaws?
Just a comment about the section that we added for records disposal. Dan, now that you're on board full-time, we got to get a listing of what files were disposed of that were still valid permits. Because Ashley Stevens got a records disposal authorization. And the statutes had changed regarding the length of time that permits were good for, extending them all the way up to 14 years. And the state library did not change their records retention disposal plan. They haven't done it yet even. So she got authorization to dispose of files that actually were valid. They were still active. They weren't, and because the records disposal retention disposal plan says we have to keep them 10 years. Well, it used to be that they were valid for 10 years, and that was the maximum validation. Well, now they can be valid for up to 19. For some of them, not all of them, but for some of them. So, Dan, you have a lot of files that are missing from the drawers. We've got to get a handle on what's lost. We know what was disposed of, but then there are other files that are missing that you haven't been able to find. So we should probably get, as time goes on, once you start to feel more comfortable, we need to find out what actually do we have missing now. Because the time will come when people will come and ask for extensions, and we may not have a file folder. We may not have
Absolutely.
any information.
I'll begin to start that project and cross-reference with the permit log.
Okay. I think we need a motion. I would move to approve the revised Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency for the town of Woodstock, revised to March 4th, 2024.
Seconded
As-
here by Stuart Peasley.
Excuse me, motion by Marla Butts to approve the latest version of the Town of Woodstock bylaws revised to March 4th, 2024 for the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency, seconded by Stuart Peasley. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any negative? No abstentions, the motion carries. Okay, Dan, you're on. What do you have for wetlands agent?
So this is seat of the pants month. A lot going on with transition. I did have an application, I'm sorry, one of our previous approvals from 2022 has gotten underway. Benjamin Marinelli on Route 198 for a single family home, pool, garage, and driveway expansion. He's finally submitted his zoning and building permits. So I'll be having a look at that, that it's compliant with the approval that was issued. David Barlow presented a 26 by 36 pavilion to us last fall on Crystal Pond Road. He received updated information from the health department about where he could move his septic, and he needed to revise that. And I have that here. Excuse me, I'm juggling. It's 2 feet smaller on one dimension.
Was this approved as a wetlands agent approval or was it a individual permit?
This was a wetlands agent approval.
Okay. So since it's smaller footprint, you said,
Yes.
then it could be approved by you as a modification of your wetlands agent approval. It doesn't have to have a new application. It can be approved as a modification. He's not moving the location of the pavilion, he just changed it a little bit, shrunk it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the question is how close could he get to these items listed as galleries, and he's able to get closer, and they reduced the size of the footprint.
So if you do issue a modification, attach the drawing to the modification approval, so it's clear what the modification actually looks like.
Okay.
I don't think this is a decision for the commission to make. I think it's a decision that you can make, and I have no objection to you making it.
Okay. Let's see what else we've had. Inquiries. There's still ongoing enforcement. I reached out to Norm Tebow regarding Mr. Bentley, since Norm Tebow had called about that property. And I've seen Norm many times between then, but for Thompson, but he hasn't gotten back to me about how he is involved with Mr. Bentley and if he's performing any work for him. I can reach out to Norm again and Mr. Bentley for any additional new information.
Have you gotten any more comments from the people in the neighborhood about the concerns?
No. But we've got a lot of rain coming up this week, and that kind of that always brings somebody.
And you've heard nothing from DEP?
No.
Because they just had a expose on, I think it was Channel 3, about dam safety. Last week, I think it was. Talking about how they're staffing up, beefing up some of their program. So it might not hurt to touch base with them again to find
Okay.
out what their position is. That could just be a phone call.
Yep. And as was mentioned in the meeting, today was day one of the full-time position. Everybody's trying to schedule a meeting. We have one with Delia Fay, the building official. I think Stu might be on it as a chair of a commission, and Jeff Marcotte. Bill, I would say you're invited too, if you can make Monday next week at 11:30. I don't know.
I'll have to make a note now. I'll see what I can do.
And I think it's Delia Fay had requested this meeting to get everybody on the same page. I don't really know what's not working right now for them. But I guess now I'll be the only person in the office after we have Tyke on for a short period of time to help acclimate with the zoning. So that's I think it was Stu, is that correct? 10:30 Monday the 11th, I think is the
I
email
didn't
that
see
went
that,
around.
but I didn't see that, but sounds, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that was going around this afternoon.
Okay. I didn't see that yet.
And so there
Monday at
is,
11. So that'll be on Zoom or in the office?
I think it'll be in the town hall.
Okay.
And there's no set amount of hours devoted to this position, but it's going to be more than the 10 that I'll be able to put in that we were working with previously.
Dan, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Did you get signed and sealed plans from the Connecticut licensed professional engineer or Bungie Dorothy Whitehead?
No, I did not. I've reached out to Rich Audette a couple times. I haven't noticed or issued that permit.
Well, don't until they end up giving you signed and sealed plans, because that's what the approval was
I agree.
back in February.
Yep, that one is still highlighted yellow in my spreadsheet. I think he might be on vacation. I know it was mentioned, but I'll leave, I'll try to attempt to leave another call for him.
Next time when you leave him a call, tell him if he doesn't get it in within 30 days, that you'll deny the application. That would be my recommendation. If he can't
Okay.
supply the correct plans that are signed and sealed by a professional engineer, then bring it back to the commission next month if he doesn't have it in by next month.
Okay.
And we should probably talk about it.
Which application is that?
That was 24 Little Hill, Bungie Hill, Dorothy Whitehead, a new single-family home in the Upland Review area. There was a history on the property, and there had been a previous approval. And all the activity was in the Upland Review area, and a building permit was issued, and the NDDH approval is in hand. And it said, since the silt fence perimeter line is near the well, hay bales also need to be used. And that we didn't have any, it was because it needed an engineered system. It needed to be signed and sealed by the Connecticut licensed professional engineer. He did not have a signed copy. He only had a PDF version. And then we said, well, you can issue it as long as you get the signed and sealed plans so that we know that everything is kosher.
Oh. And that was how many months ago? I don't remember.
That was last month.
Oh, okay.
That was last month. So he's still got a little more time, but after next month, we'll be running out of time. She's got to do it in 65 days, so.
The other detail, Dan, is for next month. We have a little bit difference in our agenda. That we will be having the citizens' comments as a number 5 in the order of business. And there's another citizens' comments at the end. Since we
Right.
adopt these
So you'll
bylaws.
need to, you'll have a new template for our meetings. So that number 5 will now be citizens' comments, and then it'll bump everything else further down so that the adjournment will be number 10.
That's in the revised bylaws.
That's right. It's in the revised bylaws, which we just approved tonight. So just make sure it gets reflected in next month's official agenda template.
So Dan, you also had a file that says Woodstock Wetlands permit applications by year.
Yeah, I was able to put in our aggregate totals since our permit numbering is month, year, and permit number for the total for rolling on the year. And I was able to make a very quick chart that I shared with members, and I will get that. It's pretty interesting. There was a spike of permit activity related in the COVID era.
Yeah. That is interesting.
Oh,
And I wouldn't say that we're trending too far down necessarily, because we've had our most February business that we've had in the past 10 years. So
well, my
There was-
comment on this is that it's a little bit of data out of context. It doesn't really reflect the activity
Yes.
that we've been doing. So it is data, but it needs some expansion to be truly understood.
Sure.
Because you could look at this and say, well, it's going that way. Why would we want to have more time for a wetlands agent?
Yeah.
But it doesn't explain the big picture.
I could have it broken out by agent approvals, individual permits, and use permitted as rights, timber harvests. But this was just a quick thing thrown together here.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we're not looking to be necessarily to be overburdensome in how things get classified or presented, but that was just my comment that this is not indicative of the big picture.
Sure.
Anybody else have anything for Dan or any other administrative business? Okay, let's move on to number 8, citizens' comments. Mr. Ron Petro has been waiting patiently for us this evening. Go ahead, Ron.
How you doing, everyone? As you remember, we a few years ago, we did the pond, dredged the fire pond and cleaned out Peckham Brook within our property. And I just want to give you an update on some of the issues that we've been having from the Payne Road and the drainage on Payne Road, which is causing a lot of headaches. As you know, the town comes by and they put now more gravel down and they grade it. And it ends up back in the trench on the side of the road, and it pushes it all down back into Peckham Brook. And last fall, I took a shovel in my tractor, went up and cleaned the trench along the road on Payne Road. Cleaned the whole thing out, like 3 feet deep, 3 feet wide. The next rainstorm, it washed all the new gravel that the town put down on the road back into that trench, filled it up completely right to the top, and clogged up the culvert. All the water and gravel went down through my barway into my hay field, and then eventually made its way down into Peckham Brook. In December, Jason, who I've been working with since John left, Jason came out with his crew and they cleaned up the trench again. It filled back up again in January. So we keep going through this over and over again. Over the years, we've had engineers come out. Joe Palulik looked at it. Janet Blanchett's been out there a few times. But nothing's been able to get done. So we did a lot of our work based on the town saying they were going to clean and come up with a solution for that drainage issue. They haven't done it, but now all the work we did is starting to get ruined. Just before my driveway, where Peckham Brook curves under my driveway, we put in 3 little spillways with retention pools to slow down the flow of water and trap some of the sediment. If you came and looked at that now, I've got sandbars in there. I've got stones from the road, all the new gravel washed right down the 300 or so feet from the road. And the next significant rainfall, maybe it's this week, I can't wait to see the mess it's gonna cause, because the first spillway that the water encounters when it comes from the road has already been partially pushed over by all the gravel. Right now, there's a stand of gravel and stone and silt behind that spillway. It's causing the water to root around it, which is going over the top of that big, huge berm we built on each side into my hayfield, and it's washed out part of my driveway again, which we just had repaired in December of 22. So I've already got an estimate for that. It's quite bumpy and a mess, but there's no sense of me doing that until the town actually comes out and does what they've been telling me for 3 years they're going to do. I don't know what all the holdups are. I'm not going to say what I've heard, but something needs to be done, because those trenches are filled up, and it's all coming back on me. And I don't mind helping out, cleaning up once in a while, but it's so predictable that it's tiring to have to keep doing it. So talking to Jason quite often, he keeps saying that Janet's gonna put a final plan in, and we're gonna get this done, but I don't know where to go next with all the damage that's been done. Peckham Brook is filled up in all different spots, all the way down to the pond, with sandbars and stones. I've got huge boulders that are being pushed because the water's going up the berms and over them. The pond where the Peckham Brook dumps into was nice and clear when we cleaned it out. It's all getting filled up with silt again, and it's becoming a mess again. So I'm just letting you know that we've got a problem still out on the road. And by the way, out at the road, the trench, it filled up, and it's now pushed over a stone wall just before the culvert's coming under the road, where the two meet, where the water comes down the trench from the top of Payne Road, where the water comes underneath from the Butts Farm through the culverts. It meets and goes down Peckham Brook towards my pond. There's also a stone wall along the road that's now been pushed over, and it's gouging out the banking all the way down to the pond, to the brook, and pushing all the stone. So I don't know who's going to clean up the mess, but it's substantial at this point, and I can only see it getting much worse after the rain that's coming up.
Ron,
So,
Stuart Peasley here. I just had a question. What's the status of the site planning or a master plan that was supposed to have been created to address this?
Well, Janet Blanchett had put in a plan where they were going to put in a catch basin. I was going to let them move my barway so that they could put the catch basin where Janet wanted it, and they would just clean it out every so often. And they
So
were
I
going to do
don't,
something.
the term is wrong, Ron. It wasn't a
Yeah.
catch basin. It was a stormwater management basin that they
Okay,
were
yeah.
talking about doing. And it was
That-
gonna be
that-
part on town property and part on your property, or on, I'm not sure exactly which lots it was gonna be on.
Yep.
Just, by the way, I was asked by, Dan if I could, actually, I got a call from John Navarro last week. Asked me if I could come out and take a look at Gravelly Brook, where, County Road crosses Gravelly Brook, because they replaced the bridge on Run 69 at that location. And the
Mhm.
town had come in and gotten a permit from the Wetlands Commission to extend the culverts that are there. Well, they've decided that they want to do a box culvert just like the state of Connecticut did on Route 169. And well, I met Jason at that time. I didn't know him. And I had a chance to ask him about what was going on, because Janet is working on that bridge crossing. And they're going to use pretty much the DOT information and come to the Wetlands Commission for an individual permit, probably sometime in June, is what the guess is. But while I was out there talking to Jason and John Navarro, we talked about Payne Road. And apparently they've been approaching Butts to find out about whether or not they can pave the road from the top of the hill. And really, that's the only solution for this problem, is to pave it and have some kind of detention facility close, like they had talked about, a stormwater management facility near your property. And since it's not a scenic road, they
Right.
could pave it. It's not like Bull Hill Road, which is scenic.
Right.
They can't pave it without permission. So they've apparently been approaching Johnny Butts to find out whether or not they could have, historically, they had a couple of leak offs into his field partway up
Yes.
the hill coming down. And those somehow got obstructed, so the water wasn't going into his field anymore. And they were talking about having leak offs there. And I said, well, if you're going to do something like that, you got a pretty steep hill. You're going to want to have an impact basin with a level spreader so that you don't gouge the side of his hill out. So I don't know how far along they're going. This was just last week. Then they asked me about whether or not paving from the top of the hill down through. Of course, that's pretty costly to install a paved road.
Yes.
So I have no idea where the Public Works Department or the Selectman's Office is standing on this. I don't know if there's federal monies available to do this kind of work as part of the infrastructure stuff. Maybe there is, I don't know. But I would suggest that you talk to Mr. Swan.
Yeah,
I know you probably have been talking to him all along,
I've talked to
but
him.
there is a liability that the town has because the changes that it made on
Yep.
the cross culvert from the Butts's property to your property.
Yep.
And
And
and they need to really get something perhaps in the works more than what now.
the thing is, with the town delaying for these many years now, I can't do my improvements because it would just be a waste of money.
Mhm.
To fix the driveway yet again. It's, I hadn't heard about what they wanted to pave the road. What I heard was they just wanted to make, or have John Butts take some of the water. But to me, it's still gonna come down on the south side of Payne Road from the
Mhm.
top of the hill.
Mhm.
Not gonna make it across because of the crown in the road onto
Mhm.
Butts's property.
Mhm.
So they still have to do something with coming down along Payne Road on the south
Mhm.
side. And if they just keep throwing gravel down and then come and clean it out, or I've got to clean it out of my brook, it seems like we're spending money instead of just over and over and over again to clean it out, instead of just fixing it once and doing it right.
Mhm.
And making that stormwater basin that you said, at least they could clean it out in one spot.
Hmm.
Instead of like they're doing now, running up and down the road, cleaning it up. It's ridiculous. Bring 3 dump trucks up there and a excavator and clean it out, only so that they can put it back on the road and get washed back in. And it causing quite a mess for me with all the stones in the field that I gotta keep raking out and picking up and on Dave Morse's side of the west side of Payne Road, I went by there today. I hadn't been by there in a while. I don't know if you've been up there, but that road is gone. Half the road is gone.
I haven't been up there.
Yeah, it's in the woods.
The Dug Hill
Yes.
Road side of, it's gone.
Yeah, it's
So-
all in the woods.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought I'd just, mention it because it's the whole point of me cleaning out the fire pond in Peckham Brook is now being defeated.
Mhm.
And I'm not gonna spend that money twice
Right.
to do this.
right.
I did it and the town had promised they were gonna do, fulfill their end of the bargain, and they haven't, and I did. So it's, I just hope that somebody can push it along and it can get completed soon.
Mhm. Well, it is
Fine,
gonna take
sir.
an engineering solution. Because they're gonna have
Yes.
to do the hydraulics to figure out what size that basin needs to be.
Mhm.
Because if they pave the road, that means the water's gonna get delivered a lot faster, which means you're gonna have to attenuate some of those increases in runoff. And we are getting more rainfall than we've had in the past.
Yeah.
And it seems like the duration and intensity has increased, meaning we're
Yeah.
getting more episodic storms rather than nice, gentle couple of days of rain. It's becoming fairly quickly.
Yes.
And that's gonna affect a lot of our water courses and our cross culverts.
Well, sooner or later, we're gonna run out of gravel and rocks, because I think they're all in my brook and pond, so.
Was there so the design for the stormwater retention basin was completed?
No, no, it was discussed and we identified the location. We identified some of the components that they would have to have for it. But that was it. It was given, this was 2 years ago, was it?
So that's the only
Maybe
thing
3?
that's the only
Because
thing that's
that's when we
needed.
went out on site and talked about it.
So
Well,
what would it take to get that done?
well, they
Money.
told me that Janet had done the plan. She was just finalizing.
No, my understanding is she had a conceptual plan drawn
Oh,
and John Navarro, I think, was gonna provide that to the Wetlands Commission to see what they thought about it, and somehow I think this is what happened, that Delia got it and they sent it to their engineering firm, and the engineering firm gave all real nasty kind of comments about how it was an unprofessional design, but it was just conceptual, and
yeah,
so
do
I don't
remember
know
that.
where all that all stands at this point in time.
yeah,
It's in limbo.
right.
Yeah, I don't know, and as far as funding goes for that, I don't know where the funding is on that, but that's obviously, if the town doesn't watch out, there's a liability there. And they need to
Yes, and
address.
I've talked to Jason, John, and Jay about that, and said, I think I've been patient.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you promised me a lot a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't be the only one delivering on my end, and you're not holding up your end of the bargain.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so. Anyway, I didn't know if they were coming to you. I thought Jason said they were, gonna come to a wetlands meeting and then a planning and zoning meeting, and so I just wanted to make sure I was at least on and heard, so.
Yeah, I think they were thinking of coming regarding Gravelly Brook and the design for that, but they weren't coming for Payne Road. They didn't say anything about that when I was out there in the field last week with them.
Yeah.
And I said, if you don't have any plans, why are you coming to the commission at this point?
Yeah.
You know, once you have some plans, then you can come and talk about that, but they didn't have anything for Gravelly Brook. They didn't say anything. That's when I found out that there would have been this sketch that
Yeah.
Janet had done, a conceptual for
Mhm.
that, but that's as far as I'd heard. I've never seen the conceptual drawing.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
I think
appreciate
they're
your
thinking
time.
about it, but it's not off their radar screen, but
Oh, I know.
Just,
All right.
just for your information, Ron, it was brought up in our meeting last month as part of a larger discussion about gravel roads and runoff, about your specific situation on Payne Road and
Yeah.
the situation on the other end of Payne Road. Because
Yeah.
where all the gravel went on the other end was all in a wetland, so
Yeah.
that's a huge area that was filled in.
Yeah.
So there
Okay.
is things still on the burner. We're trying to get somewhere.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank
Well, I
you,
think-
everybody.
I think that, you're doing the right thing, Ron, and in order for it to, if you're not doing anything, I'm afraid it's gonna stay exactly where it is, in limbo. So I think the town needs to put a request for proposals out so that they can have numbers and make decisions, because right now, nobody's gonna make any kind of movement on this unless they have information.
Well, I keep pushing, but I'm not at the point of shoving yet. And that's what I keep telling them, if push is gonna come to shove. I can't, I wanna be able to drive down my driveway without having to slow down and take the bumps and the ruts that are there now. And I don't wanna have to keep cleaning rocks out of grass and out of the brook and all that, and I keep telling them, I don't, you know what my last resort is, but why are you pushing me to go there?
Mhm.
Just fix it.
Well, they just, I think they just need a request for proposals so they can see what the numbers are. And then once that is defined, they can make a decision about moving ahead.
Well, I was promised from 2 years ago, the contractor that did my pond and the brook and all that and all the work, He kept his bulldozer, one bulldozer and an excavator on my property for 2 years. Because John kept telling him, okay, you're gonna do the project on Payne Road, so he kept it, I allowed him to keep the equipment there. The neighbors kept complaining and wanted to know what I was gonna be building. It was nothing. I was just saving him the mobilization, or the town
Yeah.
mobilization costs by telling him, you can leave, if you're not using it, you can leave the equipment on my property. And he did for 2 years. He finally took it out of there.
I think you need to write a letter. And you got to start documenting this, especially since we're about to have another rain event this week. We're going to get 2 inches of rain. You just, because right now, when we say 2 years, 3 years, you know, that just rings, you know, that goes over. But if you've got to create a timeline on paper, document this stuff. And
I've got a lot of documentation, but I don't want to continue to be known as that guy that's gonna go get the lawyer or whatever.
right.
I keep taking people at face value when they tell me Jimmy Pioppi's gonna do the work. I've already got the plans for him. Janet's doing the sketches and doing whatever she's gotta do, the engineering, and Jimmy's gonna do the job. And then it's 2 weeks, and then it was as soon as the budget passes, and then the budget passed and nothing happened. This was 2 years ago. So it just keeps going and going. So now the guy's taking his equipment out. So that's gonna be more cost to the town for whoever's gonna do it, because they're gonna bring equipment in that was already here. So,
Well,
And-
it's interesting because this isn't the only case on gravel road.
yeah,
And you know, these things probably would work better if they maybe were bundled up and all brought together at a town meeting. You know, go to the Board of Selectmen.
yeah.
You know, you don't have to get angry, but just go and you know, make a rational case for, hey, what are we doing? Can we make some kind of incremental steps to solving these problems? Because for you to be doing what you're doing and put at such, I don't know, adversity, it's compromising your health and safety at that place. You know, what happens if you had an emergency, you needed somebody to get in or out of there?
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
you know, it's don't take it lightly. That's my advice. Just look for ways to try and resolve this.
Maybe I'll send
with
Jay
other,
a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All
I
right,
would do that.
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ron.
Have a good night.
You too.
Have a good night, Ron.
Okay, more citizens' comments. We have somebody on the phone. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, this is Mike Grenier, Roseland Park. I've talked to Dan, and I also told Dan it's not a big hurry because it's winter time. My backhoe still isn't fixed, but I told you, and I just want to get some kind of an answer from you if I can, regarding the berm or the wall that I have already put in. You know, I mean, am I okay? I want to do things the right way. Am I okay with that wall? You approved for me to do some work in the field, and I probably should have incorporated that wall that I've put from the leach field system wrapping around going back to Roseland Park Road. You know, I don't want to receive a letter like I did the last time that I'm doing something wrong. Can you just inform me, am I okay with this wall that I've put around? It's basically protecting the house, you know, from water coming in to the house. You know, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, Bill Rowinski here. My observation is that when the water comes up in the field, that you're also retaining water behind that berm. So my concern is that the way it is right now, everything can even out. There's place for water to escape. My concern is mainly building that berm and retaining too much water behind the berm on the house side and not having anywhere for it to go. It gives you-
Okay, just to enlighten you, that water that builds up on the house side of the wall is basically water that's coming up from underground. It's not water that is going over the top of the wall. It's that area is the lowest spot on the property, and it's just seeping up through the ground. And normally, and you know, I've been hearing you guys talk about the rain we're supposed to get this week. I'm glad it's only about 2.5 inches and not 5 or 6 inches of rain. But that water is just coming up through the ground because it's the low spot. And generally, within a couple, 3 days after the rain has stopped, you won't see any water there. It'll be, if you walk in there, it'll be a little bit mushy, but it's not water coming over the top. It's just bubbling up through the ground because it's a low area.
Yeah, I presume that. I just wanted to make clear that my concern is if we do build that berm up too much and don't have a plan for draining it, that we might retain water runoff from the roof of your house and the small garden area and then not be able to get rid of it.
Well, go ahead.
Now, the other thing is you have a cap there. Is that where your well is? A concrete cap?
No, that's a fire pit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and what I've given Dan, a drawing, a proposal on what I want to do, eventually is actually, if you take where that fire pit is, that's about 12 to 15 feet from the wall that I've put in there. And I just want to fill that area in, give or take 16 feet, taper it from the top of the wall once it's done, and just taper it down. And I think once that is done, you won't see any surface water on the house side anymore, because what I will actually be doing is raising the low spot higher. So that water, I don't believe will appear anymore. But I have to have that wall, and it's there. It's been there, since we've been talking back and forth. And I probably should have said back when the approval was done for the field, am I good with that wall, or what has to be done? I've gone to Dan and, basically handed him a plan on what I would like to do in the future. And, am I okay with that wall there now? And in the future, when I fill it in, fill out an application at that time. I'm asking you, what would you like me to do?
Does anybody else have any comments?
Marla Bus speaking. My comment is Mr. Grenier has to come. We can't tell him ahead of time what we would like him to do. We would like him not to do anything without an approval. And then
Okay.
what you do decide to do, we have to make sure that whatever it is you're going to do is going to work for the way you expect it to work, and that you're not causing a problem elsewhere. Now, I don't know where the FEMA floodplain is on your property. I know there is a FEMA floodplain on your property. I don't know where the location of it is. I haven't looked at the maps.
It's, from where I built the wall, Marla, from the back edge of the leach field system, it basically just goes from that point towards the main part of the field and then curves right up to Roseland Park. And this is just a guess because I don't have the maps in front of me. But I'm about that wall, the closest point of that wall is, I'm going to say, all of 100 feet, maybe 150 feet away. You know, I basically, I didn't go out in the field any more than I thought I had to. So I thought it would work best to just butt it right up against the back corner of the leach field system because that's elevated right there. And I just wrapped it because I was here long enough to see that flood like 3 or 4 times. So I kind of knew where I had to build it up. And that's what I did. And that wall right now is just dirt. And it's, at its widest point, maybe about 4 feet wide. And at its tallest point, it might be 2.5 feet. And it's held the water back good. It came very close once to going over the top of the wall, but it didn't go over the top. You know, I mean, I think I would like to go about 3 feet high at the worst area, which is basically right at the corner where it curves back up to Roseland Park Road, and then just taper it down from that point, because as you go closer to Roseland Park Road, the water gets shallower because it elevates a little bit there. So it's the back part right to the curve is the worst part. But if you go from the curve of that and you go maybe, 30 feet either way, that's the worst spot right there. But I think, you know, hey, we got to take what Mother Nature throws at us. You know, you could build something 20 feet high and go, hey, I'm safe. And then Mother Nature throws something at us that's going to make it go over the 20 feet. I want to make it look respectable. I don't want to go, 6-7 feet high. That would be stupid. I think 3 feet will be okay. And I'm within 6 or 8 inches of that right now. But all I want to do is I just want to make sure that, I stay within the rules and regulations. And, if you people, I've submitted something to Dan, like I said, if I should pull out an application and get that approved, fine. If you want to say, well, why don't we just wait until, you find out exactly what you're going to do, filling it in, how high the wall's going to be, and present it at that time, I'm good with that. I just, like I said, I just don't want to receive a letter stating that I've done something wrong, like I did the last time, although I guess you could say I was a dumb homeowner. I didn't know I couldn't just dig on my property. But I followed the rules and regulations. Once I received that letter, I stopped all activity down there and went, you know, before you guys to get the approval. And I just don't want to get, I don't want to be in the wrong and receive something that I am in the wrong. So,
So,
I'm like, go
Mr.
ahead.
Kinnear, I can make a suggestion to you. You draw up what you think you want. You can present it to, have Dan present it to the commission as a pre-application review to get comments from the commission before you actually submit an application and pay a fee and all that other stuff. So.
Okay, he's got that, and if I remember right, Dan did kind of mention something like that.
We haven't seen anything. I haven't seen any sketch that you may have drawn up. So maybe in the next meeting, you could, Dan could provide us whatever it is that you want us to look at in a pre-application review so that we can give you comments of what our concerns would be, so that you'll know ahead of time before you spend the money on an application.
Okay, works for me.
And right
I'm
now, it's Bill Rowinski, right now, just leave everything the way it is, because don't have any permits or permissions to remove that either, so.
Well, didn't in October, when I wasn't at the October meeting, but didn't you authorize him to open up a connection at the east end of his property to be able to fill in the pond, the little pond he dug out, and fill that in, and also open up so that it could, that area could drain a little easier?
That was
Yeah.
for finer grading, some minor, or I should say, low-level grading in the,
Yeah.
in several areas in the field. It didn't have anything to do with his retention wall. that he
Berm,
put.
right. So
Yep.
right now I see it's holding, you know, it's, that field is holding water a good amount of time, but is I don't know where the fine grading was supposed to go. But I know the berm was not included. As long as you didn't touch the berm, you're fine. If you want to touch the berm, you got to get an approval first. That was my understanding from when I read the minutes from October. So present what it is you think you want in a pre-application form and let the commission comment to you about it ahead of time. I would suggest though, if Dan is going to
yeah.
present something to us, then he get a copy of the FEMA map, flood map, and either scan it or get a copy so that we can be seeing that at the time your pre-application comes in, so we know where the FEMA floodplain is. And I
Marla,
think there's a flood study on that brook. I'm not
Marla,
sure.
this is Dan. I've been navigating the FEMA flood viewer. It's we have another source for the most current, because this one is says it's not included in the recent update. They haven't adjusted the viewer.
No, but you have the FEMA maps on file at the town clerk's office. I know that they're there.
Okay,
So you could just go find the correct map number. The index map is there. At least that was there about 5 years ago.
okay.
That's where I found them. So ask the town clerk where they are.
Okay.
So I have a
Okay.
question. It's sort of a unrelated question, but did you see on Bill Chappett application the aerial map CAI-TECK CAI-TECK.com, and then at the logo up on top it had the Woodstock Town logo, but Woodstock's using Axis GIS. So I was curious, did he generate that, or was that anything you'd seen anywhere?
I don't know how he generated that. I could look forward to that product.
I just looked it up. I didn't know whether it needs a paid subscription but I didn't see anything on the town website of how to access it. but I was
And,
wondering if it was a better program or what your experience with it was.
Can't answer. I don't know.
Because what's the other, Geo Global, or there's another one? There's some others that are paid subscriptions
AppGeo.
that are,
Applied Geographics, they're the ones that do the application in Thompson, and they do it in a number of towns in Connecticut. And they have 2-foot contours, and they have it's the same kind of thing. It's just that they have the digitized FEMA mapping because the mapping was done for the French River and the Quinnebog, but it wasn't done for the Shetucket, and half of Woodstock is Shetucket. So Dan may be looking at mapping that was partially done for the Quinnebog, which the Roseland Park goes to the Quinnebog ultimately. And that may be, but those are not official lines yet for Woodstock. Woodstock's lines are still the old ones, the ones that are on file on the land records in the town clerk's office. They're in a file folder there.
Mike, this is Dan Malo. I
Yep.
have tried to call you a couple times and your voicemail's not set up. So if you're not hearing from me this week, give me a call, okay?
Okay, as far as I know, Dan, my voicemail is set up because everybody knows you don't text me. It's tough to teach a 7-year-old dog new tricks. So people leave me messages.
Okay.
I don't know why, but Dan, I don't know if you remember. I know you're working between 2 towns, and that can be tough. But I gave you a plan of what I would like to do with that wall. Take a look at it.
Yep.
If you think it's okay to submit to the committee, then fine. If it isn't, give me a holler. And I'll revise it if I have to.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Yep.
I guess we're okay for now. I mean, like I said, I just want to I want to do things the right way, and we'll let Dan take care of it. He can look at the plan that I submitted. If it's good enough, he could submit it to you guys. I'll talk to him during the month at some point, and we'll see if this gets put on the agenda for next month. If it does, we'll talk about it and take it from there. I'm not looking to do this, next month. That's for sure. I would like to get it done sometime during the warmer part of the summer when things are drier. What I have to do on the house side, that isn't too bad. There's only about 15, 16 feet that gets a little bit mushy, but it dries out rather quick. I'd like to get that taken care of this year if I can. But then again, my backhoe ain't fixed yet, so the pot's coming from Turkey, and I don't know. I think it's going around the world before it gets to the United States. But anyways, thank you for your time, and I'll be in touch with Dan, and we'll see what we got to do.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right. Have a good evening.
Yeah, good
Have a
night.
good one.
Is there any other business that we need to transact at this point or discuss?
I move to adjourn.
Second, the motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. The motion passes. Thank you, Dottie.
Time?
Time is, I didn't give the starting time, did I? Time now, 8:54 PM.
Thank
We're
you.
we're approximately
Bye.
7:05 when we started. Good night. Thank
Good
you,
night.
everyone.
All right.